Happy new church year for our beloved community. Happy new school year for those beginning again their studies. Happy New Year, Lashana Tova, to those of you from Jewish backgrounds as you celebrate Rosh Hashanah this week. We gather together at the start of this new year as people of many ages, as people of many sexual orientations and gender identities, as people of many races and ethnicities, as people of many theologies and religious backgrounds, woven together in our love for this community, with our hopes and dreams and prayers for the year before us, with our hearts and minds and spirits ready to be touched by the year before us, with our hands and time and talents ready to be offered in the year before us. We gather together at the start of this new year with gratitude and love for those who have come before us, for those who stand here with us. May it be a good year. May it be a sweet year. Come, let us worship together. Those opening words are adapted from Deborah Hafner. And now our gathering music for today is The Circle Game by Joni Mitchell, as sung by Laura Eliza.
Yesterday, a child came out to wander, caught a dragonfly inside a jar. pretend we can only look behind from where we came and go round and round and round in a circle game. And go round and round and round in a circle game.
Good morning. My name is Karma Amos, and I'm honored to serve as the minister of the Unitarian Universalists of Central Delaware and to welcome you to worship this morning. We are so glad that you're here. We hope that you'll find sufficient room in this community for your spirit and all that you bring to this community. We continue to be grateful for the technology that allows us to worship together online and to continue building community in other ways. Thank you in advance for your patience and grace with any delays or glitches we may experience, such as the one we experienced just a moment ago. In addition to our worship each Sunday at 10, we meet on Tuesday nights at 7 for a more informal time of check-in and sharing, and we invite you to consider joining us for that gathering. And now, as we prepare ourselves for worship, I invite you to take a deep breath as we reaffirm our intentions to be a radically welcoming community. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you've been, whatever you've done, whatever your religious beliefs are or aren't, you are welcome in this spiritual community. However you move in this world, how much or how little is in your bank account or wallet, however you are feeling in this moment, you and all of who you are welcome in this spiritual community. We are all enhanced by being together.
Good morning. Today's chalice lighting words are based on words of Lisa Dogi. For Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, for the new church year for us, for every time begin again with a fresh slate and a new opportunity. We light our chalice, symbol of faith, perseverance, and hope, in astonished thanksgiving and irrepressible praise.
For beginnings that emerge out of endings, appear amidst continuity, become visible in hindsight. We light our chalice, symbol of faith, perseverance, and hope, in astonishing thanksgiving and irrepressible praise.
For all the times and all the ways we have begun anew together, we light our chalice, our symbol of faith, perseverance, and hope, in astonished thanksgiving and irrepressible praise. Please join me in our union affirmation. The words are in the chat box. Love is the spirit of this church and service is law. This is our great covenant to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Please sing along in your own environment with our opening song, Gathered Here, from our gray UU hymnal, Singing the Living Tradition.
Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, spirits draw near. Gathered here in the
Each week at UUCD, we include a brief UU moment in our worship service that serves to make us aware of and to nurture our connection to the larger body of Unitarian Universalists and the Unitarian Universalist Association that binds us together. For our UU moment today, we want to share a short background of one of the common rituals observed in UU congregations. The water communion, also sometimes called water ceremony, was first used at a Unitarian Universalist worship service in the 1980s. Many UU congregations now hold a water communion once a year, often at the beginning of the new church year, September. Typically, members bring to the service a small amount of water from a place that is special to them. During the appointed time in the service, people one by one pour their water together in a large bowl. As the water is added, the person who brought it tells why the water is special to them. The combined water is symbolic of our shared faith coming from many different sources. This year, however, is atypical for many of us, and we are worshiping online in multi-platform venues or in other ways that differ from the way we gathered just a couple of years ago. Consequently, we'll be celebrating water communion here at UUCD a bit differently with a libation ritual to honor the connection between us, between the past, present, and future, and specifically between the ancestors, ourselves, and those to whom we give life and with whom we entrust our legacies.
This particular ritual is based on one that was celebrated by UUs at this year's General Assembly, when we gathered again as a beloved community of congregations and individuals. We have invited you to bring a container of water that is special to you, perhaps from one of your summer journeys, and a plant or some kind of a plant of some kind, or an empty container if you don't have a plant. And then you can later pour the water outside on the earth. The pouring of libations is a ritual that occurred in cultures throughout time, in particular those with roots in African tradition. It was celebrated as well in both the Hebrew Bible and the Christian New Testament. In the ritual of pouring libations, we celebrate the ones who made it possible for us to live with more dignity, freedoms, possibilities, and opportunities. We honor their courage and remember the lessons they taught us. Their blood runs in our veins, their spirit is in our hearts, their memories are in our souls. And so with the waters that connect and flow through us, we honor them. I invite you to get the water in your plant or vessel near you, and I'll invite you to call out the name of an ancestor, or to type them in the chat box if you have enough hands to do that. And then you'll affirm that name by saying Ashe, and then you'll pour a little water into the plant or container. Ashe is a Yoruba word that talks about the power to make things happen and to create change. It's a form of Amen. And so let us begin. We pour first for the universal ancestors, the ones that researched and taught us who we are, and those freedom fighters that stood for what is right. Feel free to call their names out in your own environment as you pour. Ashe. We pour for those upon whose symbolic shoulders we now stand. We honor those who paved the way, those who sacrificed, those who paid the ultimate price for our freedom and existence. Call their names. Ashe. We pour in memory of all of our siblings in the beloved community who lost their lives to violence, illness, COVID-19, state-sanctioned violence, and all forms of oppression. Call their names. Ashe. We pour for our personal ancestors, those who gave us birth, who nurtured us and taught us. Call those personal ancestors' names in your space. Ashe. We pour for the living saints who are even now supporting us, those who love us, nurture us, and give us hope. Call their names. Ashe. We pour to welcome this present moment. We salute the power of this moment and salute the ever-present now. We pour to welcome especially this beginning of a new year of coming together in hope, in aspiration, and in spirit. Ashe. We pour for our children and the future generations. We remember them now and build for them so that one day they may pour for us. Call their names. Ashe. We pour for the ones, including our best selves, who will bring us closer to justice and equity, those who will move us further along the journey to honor the inherent worth and dignity of all people, those who will hold our hope that we can still live into our values and change the world. And for this we pour 3 times. Ashe. 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 Blessed be.
It is now time for our joys and concerns, when we offer one another the opportunity to share very briefly what is most on our hearts right now, life celebrations and concerns. As you do so, we invite you to light a candle in your own place. Through the action of sharing and kindling a flame, we give energy to our best thoughts, meditation, sympathies, celebrations, and prayers. We hold these as sacred in our collective hearts. We would also like to invite anyone new to our community to introduce yourselves if you would like. We welcome you warmly and would be pleased to light a candle in honor of your connection with us and whatever joys or concerns you carry in your heart. At this time, we invite you to change your view to gallery view in the upper right-hand corner of your screen so that you can see everyone who is here. As you feel led, please unmute your microphone and share your joy or concern and light your candle if you have one. You can watch the mute signal in the lower left of each person's video stream to see if anyone else is unmuted. It's best if we share one at a time. Please mute your mic after you shared. While I will light this final candle for the joys and concerns that were not spoken by those of us here in solitary with those in our community who cannot be with us today.
As Unitarian Universalists, a central part of our worship, both in person and online, is the opportunity we all have to practice the art of generosity and the spiritual practice of gratitude. Our gifts to our congregations are what allow our communities to live into our calling and mission. We are grateful to you for the many ways you support our community, including your financial pledges and offerings. Your gifts matter, and it's one of the ways that you make this world a better place. Thank you for your passion and your generosity. For those who are making pledges or who want to contribute to UUCD, you can visit uucd.org and click on Support UUCD for more information about how to donate to us online. Our offertory music for today is New Beginnings by Tracy Chapman.
Our reading this morning is a poem called Beginning Again by the late UU minister, the Reverend Nancy Schaefer. Because we spill not only milk, knocking it over with an elbow when we reach to wipe a small face, but also spill seed on soil we thought was fertile, but isn't. And we also spill whole lives and only later see in fading light how much is gone and we hadn't intended it. Because we tear not only cloth, thinking to find a true edge and instead making only a hole, but also tear friendships when we grow and whole mountainsides because we are so many and we want to live right where Black oaks lived once quietly and still. Because we forget not only what we were doing in the kitchen and have to go back to the room we were in before, remember why we left, but also forget entire lexicons of joy and how we lost ourselves for hours. Yet all that time went clearly found and held, and also forget the hungry, not at our table. Because we weep not only at jade plants caught in freeze and precious papers left in rain, but also at legs that no longer walk or never did, although from the outside they look like most others. And also weep at words said once as though they might be arranged, but which, once loose, refuse to return, and we are helpless. Because we are imperfect and love so deeply, we will never have enough days. We need the gift of starting over, beginning again, just this constant good, this saving hope.
Tomorrow evening begins Rosh Hashanah, which literally means the head of the new year. It is, as quite obvious by now, the Jewish New Year. And this year it coincides somewhat with the Unitarian Universalists in-gathering, as we gather together again after the summer to begin our new church year. These traditions invite us to mark this time as a reset, a time to begin again with a clean slate and with a fuller reservoir of hope. This is an opportunity for each of us as individuals, for all of us together as a community, and in Jewish tradition, also for the world that is created anew as the seasons go about their constant changing, their circle game. The most distinctive sound on Rosh Hashanah is the blowing of the shofar, the ram's horn. And the shofar sounds throughout the holiday, a total of 100 times, they say. In English, the holiday is sometimes referred to as the Feast of Trumpets because of this defining sound, which is considered by many to be a wake-up call, something like an alarm. And the Jews who celebrate Rosh Hashanah as the inauguration into the days of awe or the high holy days consider this shofar to be announcing another chance to begin again. In the 12th century, the Jewish philosopher and scholar Maimonides wrote that the shofar call means something like this: awake, awake from your slumbers, you who have fallen asleep in life, and reflect on your deeds. Be not of those who miss the reality in pursuit of shadows and waste their years in seeking after vain things which don't profit, but look well to your own soul. The shofar's call to self-reflection is a starting point for starting over, for beginning again, for making things right, or at least a little bit more right. And it turns out the task of Rosh Hashanah is not only to listen to the shofar, but also to listen to our own lives. There is a line in a poem by Dane Cutler that says, after every blast of the shofar, after every blast, you can hear the echo of the still small voice. And that still small voice, our inner voice of truth, if we listen well, will likely have something to say to us about some things we need to change. Now, the good news is that we can. We have the capacity again and again and again to change, to do things differently, to live more fully into our own highest aspirations. Now, this is not an effortless task. In fact, quite the contrary. It takes hard work to look closely at our lives, to examine the relationships we have with others, the priorities we choose, the ways in which we invest our time and energy and resources in this thing called life. And if we notice things aren't quite right, not exactly what we had hoped or planned for, well, then still more work is required of us if we want to engage in a process of transformation and renewal. The Rabbi Rachel Barenblatt, who calls herself the Velveteen Rabbi, writes a poem every year for Rosh Hashanah. And here's a portion of the one she wrote several years ago that speaks to this. Again, we bring ourselves, here we are again, to the cusp of defining ourselves anew. Harvest the wisdom of the old year to carry us, coat pockets full of hope through the season that's coming. Return again. Are you ready? Then begin again. Let your heart expand with hope. Everything can be new. Return to your truest self as the year begins. Indeed, everything can be new. This season invites us to consider what it means to begin again, to do that personally and to do that collectively. How do we make the most of these opportunities that arrive by calendar as Rosh Hashanah or in gathering, or by consciousness, by the awareness when we wake up that all is not well with us or the world, but that that's okay because we have agency to participate in making it otherwise, making ourselves otherwise, repairing things in ways both small and large. For Unitarian Universalists in particular, it might be a helpful exercise to start out this new church year by reflecting individually on our 8 principles and whether or not we are intentionally living those out in the ways that we want to. We might ask ourselves, for example, am I honoring the inherent worth and dignity of all people, including myself and those whom I may not like? Am I actively working for justice, equity, and compassion in my own relationships? Am I truly accepting of others as they are and where they are, at the same time as I am striving for my own personal growth? Am I exercising my right and responsibility to search for truth and meaning and then to let it inform my choices? Am I using my right of consciousness? And am I really participating in the democratic process in our society and in our congregation? Am I working for world community characterized by truth, liberty, and justice for all? Am I, with my thoughts and actions, really respecting the interdependent web of all existence of which I am a part? And the 8th principle, am I accountably dismantling racism and other oppressions in myself and in the institutions that I'm a part of? I want to really spend some time with those questions this week. And I actually want to answer them honestly, without shaming myself for falling short or failing or being imperfect. I think that might help me focus on doing these things more deliberately in the next year. Perhaps you might consider doing something similar. The new year is another chance for us to really integrate our deepest values and our highest aspirations with our actual day-to-day living. And isn't it great that these chances to start over come regularly again and again and again? I know I need that. This year, there's also a lot to reflect on together. Some days things seem just so overwhelming, as many of you have mentioned already in this service. just to mention a few things at the top of this week's list. I don't know about you, but I'm really concerned about what's happening in Afghanistan. I'm concerned for those who are so desperate to secure their own safety, for girls and women who are terrified that their hard-won advances for equality may be reversed, for the instability of the entire region and the world that can't seem to put the things that are broken back together again in a way that honors and respects everyone. I'm concerned about the division that seems to be a constant characteristic of this country in which we live. I'm terribly saddened and disappointed and more than a little bit angry about the assault on reproductive choice that is the current reality in Texas. Listening to the testimony of doctors and women as they lament their loss of freedom is heartbreaking. And I'm worried about the effects of climate change that are wreaking havoc all over. As you've noted, Hurricane Ida did a number on us from the Gulf Coast to the Northeast, even just across the way in Annapolis and nearby towns. In Annapolis, with the tornado that put roofs and trees and boats in the middle of the street. It will take a long time for that devastation, that loss of life and home, to be fully understood, fully grieved, and if possible, repaired. And we know, don't we, that more extreme weather events are on the horizon. And of course, we continue to struggle with COVID-19 as the Delta variant rages and as vaccines have yet to reach so many parts of the world. And even with the vaccines, it spreads. I have 4 friends right now, 4 that I know of, who were fully vaccinated and contracted COVID in the last 2 weeks. And yet in many places, wearing masks and instituting other public safety measures has become not a human issue, but a partisan one. We can't even seem to come together on the issues that are most common to us all. So we really need a chance to reset together as a society and as a global village. Rabbi Baron Blatt's Rosh Hashanah poem this year is rooted in this reality. She writes, "Here's the thing. The year begins anew even in the worst of times. The leaves will turn and fall and then they'll grow again. And sometimes we're afraid. And we can't know what choice to make to keep anyone safe. Uncertainty's a bear. All we can do is seek out sweetness everywhere we may and work to fix what brokenness we find. The good news is we're not in this alone. We'll help each other hope when light seems dim and lift the sparks that darker days reveal. We'll love each other fiercely. In the end, there's no greater work that we can do. We who survive will help each other heal." There is a reason that we come together in spiritual community as congregations. And at its most basic, it is because we need one another. In gathering this year is different than it usually is, though not so different from last year. Of course, we wish we were coming together in person. But once again, we are gathering in the ways we can and trying to discern what will keep our community safe, especially the most vulnerable among us, our children, those with compromised immune systems, and those with underlying health challenges. And as we pay attention to science and reality as it is unfolding, we are continuing to foster a connection of the heart that is stronger and more enduring than physical proximity alone can create. We come together because the community we form holds us, sometimes so tenderly, in the context of a larger vision, a kinder grace, a deeper love, and a vaster truth than we can know on our own. In our ingathering, we come back together with pockets full of hope, as we start a new year in this beloved community of UUCD, we begin again to renew ourselves, to redouble our energies and hopefully our patience and persistence, to work together, to support one another, to grow, to reach out to those around us with compassion and a willingness to cooperate in doing justice. There's meaning in our coming together. And there is meaning in our observing the circle of time, taking advantage of the chance to begin again and again and again, because such hope and grace await us. May this year be a sweet one for all of us. May we come closer to our hopes for ourselves and our world. May we answer the wake-up call and get to work. Amen. Ashe. Blessed be. Our closing song this morning is a parting song for Rosh Hashanah called A Song for the New Year, performed by some Jewish folks who are collaborating from around the world.
Hear that? That is the sound of renewal.
Hear that? That is the sound of repair.
How does the new year call you? What gives you pride and regret?
Do you hear that? This is how we reset.
Whoa,
Wake up. Wake me from this sleep.
oh, I'm waking up. It's time to search my deeds.
Where have I stumbled? How can I redirect?
My book's sitting open. That's how I reset.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts. until we are together again.
The book of life is open before us. It tells stories of sadness and happiness, despair and hope, stagnation and change, and a peaceful stillness that transcends both. May you be written in the book of life. May you write your own name there in shining ink stirred together from the tears of the past and the sweet flower essence of the hoped for future. May you know who you have been and who you are, and may you bless your future self with loving, brave intention. Lashana Tova, to a good new year. Go in peace. Our virtual worship has ended, but our connection to one another and the earth endures and is again beginning. So go blessed from this place to be a blessing for others.